Let's talk about some important stuff. The first thing that I want to share with you today is this very interesting chart that I took a look at, and I took a deep dive into this whole presentation while I was in Bali and wanted to bring this to you. This is from MBS Highway. We've had them on the show before. And basically, what it's showing you is from 2004 to present day, it is showing you the number of household formations versus the number of household completions. And you probably know where I'm going with this, don't you? Yes, you do. If you are seeing this on video, just suffice it to say that the number of household formations has vastly surpassed the number of household completions since the Great Recession. Now, before that, it was out of balance in the other direction, of course. So, inventory, demographics, lending standards, developers' attitude and level of optimism of home builders, all of these things, as well as many others, come into play on this. But if you just see here on this chart, the blue lines are showing you household formations. And you compare that to completions, and you see there's just this giant deficit in terms of housing inventory every single year. This has been out of balance since 2010. Again, it was out of balance in the other direction before, but it's really just vastly out of balance now. And so this is why we can have a largely frozen real estate market where not much is going on in terms of sales volume. Sales volume way down, but sales prices continuing to increase as there is just no relief for buyers in terms of increased inventory, increased choices, and certainly not decreased prices, and certainly not decreased mortgage rates. Now, that pivot is going to come, but it has taken a lot longer than any of us thought. And this is why I am trying to stay out of the game of predicting interest rates, because it is just largely very difficult with market distortions, meaning the central bank's market distortions. Okay, now here is an interesting article about cities where home prices have doubled in a decade. But does that mean these investors that bought properties in these markets got a 100% return on investment in a decade? You know, that's really not that impressive, frankly. But here is the difference. The people that paid cash for the properties, yeah, they saw their value doubled. Now, of course, they experienced some cash flow, some tax benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But the people who leveraged these properties, if they put, for example, 20% down, and the property doubled over that last decade, their return is astronomical because of the leverage. And they've also got the hidden wealth creator of inflation-induced debt destruction in there. So it's an extremely powerful investment. A lot of our clients, a lot of you listening and watching, were clients of mine years ago, and you bought in these markets, like Tampa. Tampa was one of the markets I was talking to you about 10 years ago. And many of you took my advice and you bought properties in that market. And 10 years ago, that median home price was $145,000. Today, it's $410,000. Your return has been phenomenal if you paid cash, but it has been astronomical if you leveraged the property. So hopefully you're engaging in my refi till you die strategy. Hopefully you're using prudent leverage and you are getting massive inflation-induced debt destruction. So here's some examples, right? Many of these are markets that we recommended, and many of you listening and watching took our advice and bought properties in these markets. So number one was Tampa. That's a 183% increase in value in 10 years. Number two, Orlando. We had property tours in the Tampa area. We had property tours in the Orlando area. And many of you bought properties in those markets. 146% return gross, right? Without leverage, without inflation induced debt destruction, without tax benefits, without positive cash flow. 146% increase in value in the Orlando metro. Phoenix, another one of the markets that we've been in and out of many times over the years because that's kind of a boom and bust market. We currently have properties in the Phoenix metro area. Reach out to us through jasonhartman.com. We've also got Orlando area as well. And that was a 134% increase. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, didn't have anything right in there. We did have a couple spotty pieces of inventory in Pompano Beach over the last decade and some of these other markets. Okay. Atlanta, well, that's a market that I've recommended for many years, and many of you have been on the property tours I've hosted in Atlanta and so forth. That's a 129% increase. Number 6 on the ranking was Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue. We didn't do anything in those markets. They were always just too darn expensive. Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario, California, too expensive. So we didn't do those because the cash flow would never make sense and it would never work. And of course, those two markets are very what? Landlord unfriendly. So we don't want you investing in landlord unfriendly markets. We want you investing in the markets that are friendly to your cause as landlords. So if you have a bad tenant and you got to get them out, you can get them out easily. Okay, Charlotte, North Carolina, a market that we've helped people buy in for many, many years through different companies that I've had. That is $421,000 now is the median price. That's a 109% increase. Portland, Vancouver, Hillsboro, Oregon, too expensive. We never recommended that market. That one's out. But we did a long time ago have Denver, Aurora, and Lakewood, Colorado, which now you can't even touch an investment property in there. But back in the day, you sure could. Many of you bought properties through our networks back in the day, a long time ago. And now that has seen a 108% increase over the last decade. So, you know, the old saying, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and then wait. Okay. I wanted to address a couple of the comments that I got on a recent video and podcast that I did because people just glom onto one little statement and they don't really listen. They don't use context. I would imagine being in politics, this must be really difficult to deal with. But it's difficult for me too, because it just shows you how people misconstrue things and they just don't listen. So one of the things I talked about is how I have traveled to 98 countries so far. I'm going to be at 100 countries here pretty soon. Some of those countries I've been to many times over, but 98 unique countries, okay? And one of the things I mentioned is that I gave up a long time ago. I gave up on the idea of trying to learn languages for places I visit. Because first of all, what language would I learn? I already know the best language, and that is English. Now look, I'm not being some America-centric person when I say that. I'm just saying that English is a very, very widely spoken language. And it is a really good language because it has over 600,000 words. It's the largest, most expressive language on earth. French, Italian, Spanish, you know, it's like 180,000 words for each of those languages. All right. And by the way, Italian and French, those are very pretty languages. I wish I knew how to speak them. I do know how to speak Spanish, though, a little bit. 2 years of that in high school. But folks, a language will take you anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 hours to learn a language. Think of what you could be doing, because everything in life is a trade-off. Everything is a trade-off. You could either learn a language, and which one would you learn, right? Or You could study history, economics, real estate investing. You could learn about artificial intelligence. By the way, if you're not subscribing to our newsletter, make sure you go to jasonhartman.com, fill out any web form, and get on our mailing list. I did a really interesting article that is coming out tomorrow in the newsletter on AI agents. This is massively, massively transformative technology that is going to change the entire world. It's going to grow the economic pie. It's going to increase productivity massively. And there are many types of AI agents. I defined a bunch of them, and it's just a really interesting article. And it has wide-ranging impacts on the economy, the real estate market, so on and so forth. So be sure you are subscribing to our newsletter, okay? You do not want to miss that. Every week, we're going to have great stuff for you. But if you're watching on video, what I'm showing you is an ad about AI smart translation. And this is real-time translation that basically now is available in essentially a little earbud, an AirPod, that will translate you and another speaker in another language in real time immediately. And it's only going to get better. So language learning is probably not your best use of time. You're going to trade something to learn that language. Listen, I would love to speak a dozen languages, but I'd have to have given up a lot to learn those languages. So that was one comment I made, and someone said. Now, another comment that was just a really silly, dumb comment from another person who watched the video was, oh, well, Jason is traveling all the time. It's just a cope. Oh, a cope, right? Yeah, sure. Well, listen, we all have our copes, as you call it. So you're saying that Christopher Columbus, Magellan, Shackleton, all these great explorers, right? So their traveling was just a cope, right? I mean, there's this mega giant industry, the travel industry. And I guess that's just built on coping, right? Well, I guess there's a lot of big industries built on coping. There's tobacco, gambling, there's a zillion things people do to cope with life, right? So it's just an inane, dumb comment. I mean, look, I appreciate the dumb comments because the algorithm loves them. Say anything, just make a comment. But, occasionally I just gotta call some of them out, and those were two really stupid comments that I got recently. Oh, the other stupid comment on that video was someone basically accusing me of not really like deeply traveling when I travel. Okay. And that's just wrong. They have no idea what they're talking about. They say, oh, Jason spends his time at Marriott resorts and so forth. First of all, I'm not a huge Marriott fan. Okay. But secondly, I am a walker. And when I go places, I walk because I want to be on the ground. I want to engage with the local people. And I just love to walk, walk, walk. And so I would argue that I am very much engaged with local culture when I go places, but whatever, think what you want, keep the dumb comments coming because the algorithm loves them. And the more dumb comments I get, the more people will get the video suggested to them. So that's great. All right. Empowered Investor Live is coming up April 4th through the 6th here. So save the dates for that. That'll be in Orange County, California. So real convenient, Empowered Investor Live. We'll look forward to seeing you there. We're going to have awesome speakers, awesome entertainment. We always have a band on Saturday night, and it's really, really fun dancing. We're gonna cut a rug and just have a bunch of fun learning and growing and networking and hanging out with great people. So be sure to join us for that. Save the dates. We will have a ticket page up for that soon.